Hey family, welcome back to the channel and to part 3 of Emily and Jonathan's journey. In part 2, we watched Emily's life take a surprising turn. After losing Jonathan's card, hope nearly slipped through her fingers. But fate had other plans. Just when it seemed all was lost, Jonathan's driver found her, and from that moment, everything changed. She moved into a safe home, began rebuilding her life, and even became the face of a new supermarket, Hope Mart. But just when things started to feel stable, a phone call from a foreign number shook everything. And now, part 3 begins. You don't want to miss what's coming next. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like the video, and drop a comment to let us know where you're watching from. Let's dive in because Emily's story is far from over. Grace stayed with her in the office room inside the shop, asleep in a small white crib as her mother worked. The days were long but satisfying. For the first time in years, Emily had a reason to wake up smiling. And every evening when she looked at the sleeping baby on her lap, she whispered, "We're not just surviving anymore. We're living." One warm Tuesday afternoon, Emily sat inside the shop's small back office going through the day's accounts when her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize foreign. Her brows furrowed, unsure whether to answer. Something inside her told her to pick it up. She pressed the green button. "Hello?" A woman's voice responded, soft, steady, and heavy with emotion. "Hello, is this Emily Carter?" "Yes, this is she," Emily replied cautiously. There was a pause. Then the woman said, "I'm calling from Lome, Togo. My name is Evelyn. I'm Henry's cousin." At the mention of his name, Emily's breath caught in her chest. She sat upright, her heart pounding. "Henry?" Her voice cracked. "You mean Grace's father?" "Yes," Evelyn answered slowly. "I've been trying to reach this number for over a year. It was always off. I just got through today." Tears welled in Emily's eyes before she could understand why. "He never came back," she whispered. "He promised he would. But he never did." There was a deep silence on the other end. Then Evelyn spoke again, her voice shaking. "Emily, he didn't abandon you. He never made it home. There was an accident on his way back. He was unconscious for 4 months. He died in the hospital." Emily gasped. The phone nearly slipped from her hand. She placed it down gently on her lap and covered her mouth. "He died?" she whispered. "I'm so sorry," Evelyn said. "We didn't know how to contact anyone. We found messages on his old phone. Your name, your number, photos of you and the baby. I knew I had to try." Emily wiped her tears, breathing hard. So many months she had cursed his name. So many nights she had believed he had walked away. And all this time, he had been fighting to live. "There's something else," Evelyn added. "His mother is still alive. She's very old now. She thinks her son left this world with no one to remember him. But I read the messages. I believe there is a child. Am I right?" Emily looked at the sleeping baby beside her. "Yes," she said, her voice trembling. "Her name is Grace. She's his daughter." There was silence, then soft crying. "Thank you," Evelyn said. "You have no idea what this means to us. His mother will finally have something left of him." Emily nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'll bring her," she whispered. "She deserves to know where she came from, and his mother deserves to meet her granddaughter." The call ended with quiet sobs from both sides. Emily held Grace tightly, crying not from pain, but from peace. For so long she had carried a wound she didn't understand. Now she knew the truth. Henry hadn't abandoned her. He never had the chance to come back. The morning sun bathed the city of Lagos in gold. Inside Hope Mart, Emily Carter stood behind the counter, rearranging canned goods and ticking off items in her ledger. The once scattered girl from the roadside now moved with quiet confidence. Her clothes were neat, her hair in a soft bun, and her eyes no longer carried the weight of despair, but purpose. Grace, now crawling and babbling, sat in a playpen nearby, holding a stuffed giraffe Jonathan had gifted her. Laughter occasionally escaped her lips, like tiny bells, and each time Emily heard it, her heart swelled. She had survived, and now she was thriving. The glass door chimed as it opened, and in walked Jonathan and Nathan Blake, dressed casually and carrying bags. Emily smiled widely. "You two always come bearing gifts," she said, her voice playful but warm. Nathan placed a small box on the counter. "These are new notebooks. I figured you'd want to start tracking sales digitally now." Jonathan gave a grin. "And some new toys for Grace." Emily laughed softly. "You spoil her more than I do." They sat together at a small wooden table in the office corner, sipping chilled malt drinks. Emily told them about Evelyn's call and her plan to travel to Togo with Grace to meet Henry's mother. Both brothers listened attentively. "I think it's a beautiful thing you're doing," Jonathan said gently. "Closure matters." "She deserves to know her granddaughter," Emily replied, eyes distant. "And I need to forgive the past. Now that I know the truth, I want Grace to grow up proud of where she comes from, even if that part of her story is painful." They sat in thoughtful silence for a moment, the soft hum of customers moving in and out of the shop in the background. After a while, Nathan spoke. "You know, Emily, the way you've handled everything, it's remarkable. Most people would have given up." "I almost did," she admitted, "but someone stopped for me in the rain." Jonathan smiled but said nothing. That evening, after the brothers had left, Emily sat alone outside her new apartment. The sky was painted in deep purples and fading orange, and the scent of akara from a nearby vendor filled the air. She rocked Grace gently in her arms, singing softly. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. "Mama is waiting for you. She already has a small room prepared. She says she prays every night for the child her son never got to meet. She thanks you for your heart." Emily closed her eyes, letting the message sink in. She whispered into the breeze, "Thank you, Henry, for loving me, even if life didn't let you stay." 2 days later, with Grace on her lap and her heart steady, Emily boarded a bus bound for the Togo border. It was a long journey, but this time she wasn't traveling alone, not emotionally, and not in spirit. When she arrived at the modest house in Lome, an old woman stood at the gate with a trembling smile. Her eyes filled with tears as she saw Grace. Without words, she reached out and touched the baby's tiny fingers, then looked up at Emily. "You've brought me back my son," she whispered. And in that moment, a generational wound began to heal. Weeks later, Emily returned to Lagos, to Hope Mart, to her apartment, to a community that had become family. She expanded the shop. She hired a young widow to assist her, passing on the kindness she had received. Jonathan visited often, now not just as a helper, but as something closer, a friend whose presence brought comfort. Their connection deepened with time, naturally, gently, like rain soaking into dry ground. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops of Ikoyi, Jonathan turned to Emily during a quiet walk. "I used to think being wealthy meant having more than everyone else," he said. "But you taught me it's about lifting those who had nothing and watching them rise." Emily looked at him, her hand resting on Grace's stroller. "And I thought being poor meant being powerless. But sometimes all it takes is one person to remind you that your story isn't over." They stood together, side by side, two souls whose lives had collided under the Lagos rain. And from that collision, something beautiful had grown. The end. Sometimes the people who have the least teach us the most. And sometimes the simplest act, stopping in the rain, can rewrite a destiny. Beneath the Rain, hope was born. What did you think of Beneath the Rain? Did any part of Emily and Jonathan's story touch you deeply or remind you of someone you know? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read them. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in second chances, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. More emotional, powerful stories are coming soon, and you won't want to miss them. Turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know when the next chapter of life begins. Thank you for watching.